But as soon as Ghost of Tsushima comes out, I'm getting it. That game looks stupid good. I watched about 2 or 3 hours of it on and off from somebody streaming it, and I was all like, yeah, I'm gonna stop watching this. This is really good. I'm gonna play it. Alright, so there's... Sorry, face north, please. There's a trailer there and a trailer there. Okay. Both of which can go to the other place. Whoops. Oh my god, I hate this. Why does the game do that? It's so annoying. Ugh. You're in Discord, right, Shady? Can you DM me that on Discord? I'll look at it. I'm trying not to add games to my list of games I want to play, but I will check it out. The problem is I've been slowly putting off God of War because when Ghost of Tsushima comes out, I wanted to jump on it. And I thought it was going to come out in February, and it didn't. And now I'm just kind of like dragging my feet. Being like, come on, come on. Announce it and be available immediately. Which won't happen. So I think I'll probably just play God of War first. I also don't expect Horizon Forbidden West is going to take that long to come to PC. Probably a year. Because they'll probably do it like shortly after all the DLC is out. Because that's usually what they do, is the PC release will be full price, but it'll include all the DLC usually. But like, Horizon Zero Dawn sold so well on PC that I don't think they're going to put it off nearly as long as they did last time. And as soon as I know when that's going to come out, I'll play through Zero Dawn again. Because Zero Dawn was really good. And Cappy didn't watch it. Not because she wasn't interested. Well, because she didn't think she was going to be interested, actually. And then she was all like, actually, it looks pretty good. And I was all like, well, we're already done, so I'll replay it. Oh no, I'll have to replay an amazing video game. Sad face. Dinosaur robots, how can you not be interested? I don't know. But I like kind of, as I was playing the game, I was kind of telling her what I was learning about the story and stuff, and like halfway through she was like, this sounds really good, but I've already missed the first half. And then when the next game came out, she was like, I really want to see the first game. And I was all like, I'll play it again. I'll try to time it so that I can play the first one right before the second one comes out. So I'll play the first one, and then the second one will have come out, and then I'll just go right into that. Essentially. I had someone in Discord try to tell me that you couldn't sneak up on Thunderjaws. And I was like, I did that in my first playthrough. I was like, you're not going to tell me that's not possible. I did it. Alright. Has there been anything about the new Mass Effect game? Not really. I mean, they said it's still in the planning phase. It's not even really in development. Like, I say that from the aspect of, like, they're still just, you know, creating the story and adding characters and stuff like that. I'm sure they're doing some of the development as well, but like, the bulk of what they're doing is still world building at the moment. I wouldn't expect any real concrete information on the new Mass Effect. I wouldn't expect any information on Mass Effect until November 7th. And even then, I expect that information to be sparing and limited. They'll probably just have another teaser. But I wouldn't expect any gameplay until November 7 next year, honestly. So like a full year and a half away until you get any kind of real gameplay footage. They might have a new teaser and like tell you the name of the game this November. Most likely a few years. Yeah, I don't really expect it. I don't expect it this year, and I don't expect it next year. Probably 2024, if I had to guess. I thought I was in low. I was in automatic that whole time. Wow. I am a moron. Okay. So much easier in low. I still think my idea for the next two Mass Effects was a really good idea. My idea, and I'm sure some of you guys have already heard it, my idea is that the next Mass Effect should be in the Milky Way galaxy, and it should be after the rebuilding of the events of Mass Effect 3. And it'll be hundreds of years later, like, I don't know, 700 years later? Something like that? About the same amount of time that it took, spoiler alert, it should take place in the future about the same amount of time it took the, I even forgot the name of the ships. Anyway, it took the ships to get to Andromeda. Plus like another, like, 2 years or something. And then what it should be is it should be, like, obviously mostly new characters. Maybe you run into Liara and Grunt, but other than that, everybody else is going to be dead. And Liara and Grunt will both be really old. But it should focus on, like, we've already rebuilt all these Mass Effect relays. So travel is reestablished after the events of 3. And one of the things that you're doing in this new Mass Effect is helping construct a brand new relay, one that's never existed before, like the first one made by our people. And then they, or maybe, no, not that they're building one, that they find a new one. They find a new relay that you have to work to activate it. Because it's obviously we've never used it before. And it turns out it actually connects to Andromeda. And now, boom. Milky Way connected to Andromeda. And of course, you build a whole story around that. Like, you find a new relay, you have to figure out how to activate it. It's like 10 times the size of any other relay because it's shooting you to another galaxy, and you know, people are trying to stop you because they don't want to use it because they're afraid it's going to go someplace, and they're afraid now. They're hyper afraid of the. Let's say they're hyper afraid of the Reapers. Maybe this is going to send us to another area where the Reapers originally came from. I don't want to have to deal with the Reapers again. We got to stop you. You know, so you deal with all that, and then you turn it on, you find out it leads to Andromeda. And that's the end of the game, is essentially you go through, you're like, we don't know where we are, right? You go through the relay, and you're like, I don't know where we are we? And you end up stumbling upon, you know, let's say they stumble upon, the last shot of the game is them like flying around or whatever, and then out of nowhere like unwarps the ship, the Tempest from Andromeda. It's just like wham, and shows up, and they're like, who the hell are you? So that would be pretty cool. Alright, so this is done. And then the next game could be like all of them connecting up. Let's take care of that real quick. Okay, so now we need to go to Northport. Is there only one scout thing here? Yeah, it's just that one. In that case, let's go here. Let's, truck storage, deploy. Truck storage, deploy. And I'm gonna take this one out first. Since there's only one scout trailer, let's go get that and finish that one. I know they gave a timeline somewhere. I can't remember how long it was. I want to say it was like 700 something years that it took them to get there. They also left during the events of Mass Effect 2. So you have to take that into consideration. But yeah, so let's say it's 700 years in the future from Mass Effect 3, right? That would put them a couple of years after Andromeda when they get there. $634 years? Okay. So at that point, you just say it's 650 years later, so that the events of Andromeda, the game, have already completed, and it's been like 2 or 3 years since then. So there's like not a whole lot of time has passed, but you want to make sure that the end of Andromeda is done. That way, the fifth game... Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the next game is 5. The sixth game would pick up where Andromeda and Mass Effect 5 left off. But you would have the Andromeda people, and you would have the Mass Effect 5 people kind of combining together. Plus, that would also help them... it would help them wrap that up in a trilogy that also connects to the first trilogy better. And it would help in the sixth game to have two crews that combine together, so the people who hated the crewmates in 5, in Andromeda, I mean, the people that hated some of the crewmates in Andromeda have different crewmates, the crewmates from 5, that also kind of bundle up together. Because I have to admit, for the majority of Andromeda, I only cared about half of my crewmates. I only found about half of them interesting. The other half I found very boring and dull. And I didn't care about what the heck was going on in the game until probably the last 6 hours, story-wise. I also didn't much care for Ryder. I thought Ryder was very bland. A lot of the writing in it, you have to admit, a lot of the characters in Andromeda were a little dull compared to the original trilogy. You didn't even finish it? It was good. Like, don't get me wrong, I think there were certain things in Andromeda that were far superior to the original trilogy. I have hair in my mouth. Blech. The downsides of having a beard. Yeah, exactly. And the Mass Effect 5 people could work with the Andromeda people. Yeah, exactly. It was a nice game. That, a space shooter? Yeah. The thing, one of the things that Andromeda did far superior to the original trilogy was the on-foot combat. The on-foot combat and even the ground-based vehicle combat. Oh, you mean the devs could help fix some of the character flaws from Andromeda? Yeah, sure, absolutely. Like, I found Cora really dull. I found Liam really dull. I found PB really dull. I liked Drax, and I liked Vetra, and I liked, God, the new alien guy. I forget his name now. The Andromeda Javik, essentially. Whatever his name was. And then the DLC for Mass Effect 5 could be the DLC from Andromeda that they scrapped. Right? It could be the DLC about the Quarians that they had planned out and then nixed because the game was a failure. Because at the end of the game, they would be in Andromeda, right? If the game went that way. Jaal. Thank you. Yeah, I liked Jaal, I liked Vetra, and I liked Drax. But the two humans and the Asari, I did not like. They were just really bland and dull characters. Korra's entire character development was, I'm mad that you're the boss and not me. That was her entire character. They did her dirty. They did Liam dirty. Like, they could have had much better character development there, and they just didn't. Also, Liam's character, it was pretty obvious to me, Liam's character was trying to be a combination of Caden and James from the original trilogy, and the problem with that is they gave Liam all the bad parts of Caden and all the bad parts of James, and none of the good stuff of either of them. And he just came across as this really dull guy. I mean, in fairness, they were trying to make a Caden James character and use all the good stuff. The problem is they thought all the good stuff was all the stuff that people found boring. And they combined it all together, and it just turned this guy into like a dude bro who just sat in his room with his shirt off all the time. And tried to come up with witty one-liners, and you were just like, no. He's boring. Alright, so also PB was just terrible. I don't know what the hell they were trying with PB, but whatever they were trying to do with PB, they fucked it all up. That's the Asari, yeah. I'm assuming they were trying to make her, like, the obvious romance option. But she just came across as, like, this really needy, horny character. And that was essentially, that was her backstory. I'm needy and horny. And the other Asari don't like me. And it was like, what do you mean? I don't like you. I think that was my problem with Andromeda's characters, is a lot of the characters tried to come across They tried to write the characters as being like, hey, I'm cool, man. Look at me. Look how cool I am. I don't care about anything or anyone but myself. I'm so edgy. And that was like half the characters. And it was all like, okay, it's okay to have one character like this, but it shouldn't be half of your crewmates and your main character. The parts of the story that interested me the most were the parts of the story that had the least to do with my character or my crewmates. Like, I really wanted to know what was going on with the Remnant. I really wanted to know what was going on with all the orange and black filament stuff in outer space. I wanted to know what was going on with the Quarians. What's up with them? That was the stuff that was interesting to me. All the stories about my crewmates and stuff, I was like, eh. And it was probably not because the story behind them wasn't interesting. It's that the character on the surface wasn't interesting, and so it made it to where I was just like, I don't really care about this because I don't care about this person. Which is unfortunate because Andromeda had a lot going for it. They did a lot of things right, they just did a lot of things wrong, too. That being said, I do want to replay Andromeda. And I want to play it from the aspect of like a new player again to try to... Oh yeah, I don't care about what's on the bed. Alright, so that vehicle's done. Ooh, stretch. Okay. Where's that maintenance trailer? Gross, why is it out there? Okay, well, let's go get that one. Go this way. Over here. There we go. I'd probably download some mods. Just there's a handful of like quality of life mods that I would download. I think there's a mod out now that makes more Asari faces, which would be really nice. You have to admit there was a horrible lack of Asari faces in this game, in Andromeda. There were 2 faces for Asari. There was PB, and then every other Asari in the game had an identical face. And they tried to say they're not identical. Look, these characters have the different Asari markings on their face, and you're like, yeah, but the underlying face is identical. I can't tell you how many times I'd run across an Asari and be like, who are you again? Like, oh, we met over here and did all this stuff. And I'm like, I can't tell. Your face is identical to every other one. Even the doctor on your ship, who's also Asari, her face is the same as every other Asari in the game. And I'm just like, oh, that's so bad. And I think somebody modded and made like 3 more faces. I think they gave your doctor a unique face, and then they added like 1 or 2 additional Asari faces to like some of the main characters that you're supposed to know who they are throughout the game, but you're constantly confused. I don't really want to modify the combat. The combat was perfect, as far as I'm concerned. I think it's just some minor, like, facial stuff, really. I haven't looked at the mods for the game in like a year. You may have forgotten about that stuff. The faces, yeah. Now, here's the thing. A lot of people are going to be like, yeah, the faces look dead. They fixed that. They fixed that really fast. The problem is that was, for like 2 weeks, that was the go-to thing as to why Andromeda sucked. Was that the faces looked dead, and yes, they did. But they fixed that, so that's not a problem anymore. The thing that annoyed me the most about that is people were still bringing that up like 6 months after the game had come out. And I'm like, that problem doesn't exist. That problem is gone. The characters, the human characters look fine now. Maybe I'll start that. Maybe I'll do that like in November for like N7 day. I'll replay Andromeda then. Yeah, it's pretty sad. It's pretty obvious there were some problems in the game when Cappy, who dethroned Final Fantasy to name Mass Effect as her favorite video game series of all time, and cried many times during her own playthrough, couldn't play through Andromeda. Because she was like, I can't do it. It's not the same. It's like the characters are dull and boring. She's just like, it's just not Mass Effect to me. And I was like, yeah, I can't say as I argue. Oh, the other story I wanted to learn more about from Andromeda was the mystery about what happened to the lady who started the whole Go to Andromeda project. That mystery got interesting, and then they just dropped it. It was pretty obvious that some of these things were intended to be DLC. But the problem with that is those were the most interesting stories. And none of the stories that they finished in the main game were that interesting. And it's like, dude, your main story, like, I'm sorry, your DLC needs to be interesting, but your main story, regardless of the DLC, needs to be the most interesting, and the main story, hands down, was the dullest part of it. It was just like, I don't know what's going on. None of this makes sense. The bad guy wasn't scary. The bad guy didn't feel intimidating in the slightest. It felt to me like I was just chasing the bad guy, waiting to get into a gunfight with him. Because as soon as I got into a gunfight, I knew he would be dead in like 20 seconds. At least it sure felt like that, because every time I got close, all he would do is run away. I get real close to catching up to the guy, and he'd be like, I'm out. So to me, it felt like he was terrified of me. It felt like I was the bad guy chasing him down, and he was terrified. Perhaps I was the bad guy all along. I mean, the way I was written, I was written badly. The character was written badly, that's for sure. If that's an indicator, maybe that's correct. Also, what's up, Athos? But, like, at the end of Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3, I was scared of the final villain. Like, I was definitely encouraged to go after them, and I wanted to kill them, and I wasn't going to stop. It's not like I was scared like I didn't want to go to them. But I was, like, they had me on the edge of my seat, like, I could lose. And the bad guy from Andromeda is, like, After my second meeting with the guy, I was all like, oh, this guy's gonna lose easy. Like, this guy ain't nothing. And he never became scary throughout the rest of the game. And that's a problem. That's a writing issue. They wrote that character poorly. He was not intimidating. He did not make me nervous at all. It also didn't feel like I was a badass. It felt like I was an average guy and this guy was just like no different than me. So it wasn't that I was a badass and he was, you know, normal villain. But a good villain should be written to where you think you're going to lose at every drop of the hat, but you want to beat him. All right. So there's a gas trailer in the top left over here. I should go get that one. And from the information I've learned about the development of the game, it was pretty obvious that, like, it's not that the developers suck, you know? It's a combination of the story got redesigned 2 or 3 times through the development process without giving the developers the proper amount of time to flesh it out. I mean, you've also got the problems with the game engine and stuff like that. That was an issue, but I feel like the biggest issue was the writing, honestly. The writing and the lack of development time from when everything was set in stone to when the game was forced to be released was far too close. It was like a year. And it's like you can't write a compelling story that's super complex Yeah, I'm going to clarify that a little bit for you, Athos. Publishers need to be less afraid to delay, yes. Developers are almost always really good, really cool with it. Like, I'm sure there are some exceptions to that rule, but generally speaking, it seems that it's almost always the publisher's fault. It was also pretty obvious when Andromeda got dropped by EA/BioWare, and they announced Anthem. And, like, Anthem looked like Andromeda. It was pretty obvious they were just like, okay, Andromeda people, get rid of Andromeda, stop working on it, move on to Anthem, because Anthem is going to be amazing and make us tons of cash. Which, of course, it didn't. It was also a bomb, because it was rushed. But, I mean, a lot of the combat looked the same. All the movement was pretty identical. So it was pretty obvious that it, like, Andromeda felt like a tech demo for Anthem. And, it's really disheartening when they take a tentpole franchise and they use it as a place to test stuff for another game. And you're like, no, it should be the other way around. The tentpole should get all the good shit, and the new games should get all the test stuff. And they ended up fucking up their tentpole, one of their tentpole IPs, and fucking up their new IP, too. They screwed them both up because they did it wrong. I love when these game when the developers don't usually say it. I love when the game publishers are like, alright gamers, you guys need to stop assuming what's happening behind the scenes in our company, because you guys don't know all the complexities and stuff going on, and you guys shouldn't blame it on this, that, and the other. And then, like, 2 or 3 years go by, and somebody does an interview with the game developer, and the game developer is all like, oh yeah, everything the gamers assumed was wrong. That was absolutely exactly what was happening. And it's like, the publishers don't generally think of the consumer as being intelligent. But we know exactly what you guys are doing. It's not hard to figure out. Most of this stuff is like business 101. You know? We're not stupid. It's like when Fallout 76 had stuff in the game, and then they announced they were removing that thing from the game and replacing it with something harder. And then they'd wait like 2 months, and then they'd release the thing that they took out from the game on the store that you could then buy for money. And it's like, we know exactly what you did. You found something in the game that was really good and that people used a lot of. Then you introduced something that made that... You took the item out of the game and introduced something that made the item nearly required, and then you sold the item back to us. We're not stupid. Alright, so that should be 3 out of 6 trailers, I think, returned. Yeah, I've got a sideboard. Ugh. Over there. A fuel trailer. Oh, right next to the port. Psh, that's easy. That doesn't even count. And then a fuel trailer. That's a relatively small sized one. That one might be interesting to get. I may pull this one out this direction and come through the woods and then bring it back to the garage. That seems like the shortest route. The other one would be this way. And then from here, I'd still have to bring it back to the garage. So the other route would be quicker. Okay. So really there's only 2 because this fuel semi-trailer at the port doesn't really count. I'll pick it up, take it there, and be done. Well, in that case, let's do that right now. Hang a left. Okay. And then I've got to get the 2 upgrades that are still in Alaska somewhere. Who knows where the hell they are. At this point, I'll just open up a map and go through the map and find them. I mean, you're probably not wrong. I tried to stay in Pedro Bay as little as possible, so that would make sense. Luckily, Pedro Bay wasn't that long. There wasn't a lot of stuff to do over there. It's a relatively small map. There weren't that many missions in Pedro Bay, which is good because it's 2 maps away from the closest garage. So if you get your truck stuck, might as well recover and go back out again. The nice thing I like, generally speaking, about the maps where there's no garage or you have to go 2 maps away to get there is usually, if that's the case, the farthest away map will have a trailer store and a gas station. I mean, it's less of an issue later because later there are only 2 maps. I really hope they bring out another DLC that's got like 4 maps again. At least they charge properly for the size of the maps, though. Because I've noticed that the DLCs that had 4 maps, were a little more expensive than the DLCs that only had 2 maps. I think the 4 map DLCs were like $12 and the 2 map DLCs are $6. So you're like, okay, well at least they're charging appropriately. See, like, how easy was that? Oh man, so I only have the sideboard trailer down here, which is gonna suck. Actually, no, that's not... With this truck, that won't be so bad. And then the fuel trailer there. Honestly, neither of those are going to be that difficult now with this truck. Are there any roads here I haven't driven down? That's the other thing. If there's a road I haven't driven down, there's a chance the upgrade could be there. Driven down all of those. Top left corner. I even drove down this river even though I didn't need to. Driven all through here. Hey, what's up, Fox Boy? Driven down all these roads. Yeah, we've driven down everywhere, so it's not a... The upgrades are probably just off the road somewhere, which is disappointing. Well, hey, sorry, Fox Boy, you chose the worst time to show up. I'm gonna go ahead and call it here for this morning, everybody, but I should be back tonight. And then I also plan on streaming tomorrow morning as well. But hey, thank you guys for coming and hanging out. I very much appreciate it. You always pick the worst time. Sorry, man.